Bobmon, welcome.
Thank you for having me, mate.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Bobman used to run Eve News 24, and at that point I was a writer editor for Eve News 24, so Bobman and I have known each other for quite some time, and I worked for him basically.
Yep,
And right
that's
off,
what 2 years ago now. 1 year.
yeah, it's about 2 years ago, for about a year.
Yep.
And right off the bat, I endorsed him a couple times for you. How many times have you run for CSM before you made it this last time?
I've run twice. One time I didn't get in, and the other time I did.
So I endorsed you the first time that you ran, because you were a great boss, actually, a very nice guy that kind of made everything run on time. And one of the things I really appreciated about you was that you paid the guys right at the beginning of the month on the first.
Yeah,
Uh, I was very surprised at TMC when I got there. People were, not paid until 14 days later, or people didn't get paid because they forgot. Like it was, I was like, geez, Ian 24 is eating your lunch at this. They show a lot of respect by
yeah.
making
That's
sure.
It's actually one of the things that I stressed. Actually, that's how I became the leader of Evenings 24 at the time, was because I was like when I joined, I kept taking on more tasks and tasks and tasks, and it only got to the point where the only thing I wasn't doing was paying people, and I got fed up with waiting for my personal pay, and so I told Riv, hey dude, why don't I handle the pay? I'm doing anything or everything else already. So what do you think about it? And he was like, sure. And so maybe it's because I'm Dutch. I'm very about having the money on time, and I did it every first of the month because that's just a thing that I personally really liked. So yeah,
Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that we overly care about money. It's just a sign of respect that you
yeah.
don't hold that over somebody in that way. I really
It's also
appreciated that.
nice for buying Plex because usually you do that like at the beginning of the month or at the end of the month. So then at least you have the ISK to do it.
Oh, that's a good point. And it should be said that INN changed their policy to pay as soon as the article came out. So we did one step better. We didn't pay once a month. We paid as soon as you publish. So
Ooh.
anyway, yeah, among other things. So this is about you, Bobman. You're an incumbent now. You've already had a year. And how would you say it went?
Amazing. That's what I've been saying to this question all the time. It's been literally amazing. Um, when I got into the CSM the first day, we were all scared because we heard the horror stories from CSM 10. And so, like, we were just feeling about, and everybody decided to leave their egos at the door, have proper discussions, and be very open with each other. So, everything has been amazing.
So one of the things that came out this, so it's good that you had a good term.
Hmm.
One of the things that came out was, and this kind of plagued you for a while, at least from
Hmm.
last year, maybe 2 years ago, and that is your relationship with Eve News 24 and how you guys were taking advertising money from I Want Isk, which was an online kind of
And
casino.
ETHBet and others.
Sorry, and EveBet and others, but casino money basically, right? Like
Hmm.
that's what we call it.
Yeah.
Uh, and so did that influence you in any way while you were on the CSM?
No, not really. Um, I mean, people saw the drama that happened after it was announced that casinos would be banned. I still do this day regret the way I handled it, maybe in some aspects of it.
What
Um,
aspects of it?
I do think maybe mainly the way I communicated. One of the things that is very important for people to imagine and like step into my shoes for a bit is I got home after a day of university, sat down, preparing to do some administration in order to pay the guys, and I see this, and this was something I didn't know about, and suddenly I saw I still for that month should have received money, and that wasn't possible. So within 5 seconds, I saw every organizational part that I have ever, worked on towards the gap. I saw that disappear, and in the meantime, I also got poked by a ton of like streamers, event organizers, and everything saying, "Bob, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? We're all doomed." So as a young guy without a lot of maybe this sort of experience handling with these situations, I maybe posted some tweets that I now regret making. Shouldn't have done that. Should have been more professional, maybe. But I still think that I I raised a proper concern, and this is something that we actually spoke about as well in the meetings. That casinos were supporting a lot of the nice things in Eve, like streamers, events, everything, and that was a hole that there was no fill for. So that's I think I raised a good point, but maybe not in the best way to do it.
Right. Your reaction was pretty swift. And if I remember correctly, when injectors were announced,
Hmm.
you kind of went nuts then too inside of EN24's room, newsroom. And it took
With
about
injectors, that was before I became a CSM member. I think.
sure. No, I'm talking about
Every,
your reaction to things. So that's what we're talking about. Like you get
well,
information and you react very strongly in one direction.
I mean, within the Evenings 24 channel, I think that's different than like this was just something that I posted on Twitter in like the CSM channels. I didn't react like this. We maybe a bit strong because I was we had the discussion right after it was announced, so I might have been a bit more stronger in terms of words I used and etc. In the meeting, but I kept it very professional in that. With the injectors at the time that was just Eve players discussing things that was not being
Right.
a
It
professional
was a
CSM
quiet,
player.
safe room, and
Yeah, yeah,
I'm totally exposing what was said there. But what I wanted to
yeah,
get to is not that you overreact or anything like that, but you have an initial reaction that's very strong, and then you start taking in information, and then you
yeah.
kind of sort through the information, and then you kind of say like, all right, well, what I said earlier, let me hold on a
Hmm.
second while I work out some of the details, and by the end of it, I think you ended up liking injectors, right?
Um, I like injectors in terms of how I've seen it now in use for a bit longer. I still think though that it's kind of a shame that the history of a character can be destroyed by pulling out all of its SP. I like that about training up a character, that sort of the wacky skills that you've trained uh, are part of the character's history. At least that's how I treat my characters.
Yeah.
Um,
And how about all those people that
and
got
then
rid
that
of all their mining
yeah.
skills, and then the Rorqual came out and they got them all back, and then the Rorqual got nerfed, and now they're getting rid of them again.
Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of the thing that I dislike to this day still, and that's the main thing I was arguing at the time as well. Is that it's like if I look at Bobman, right, he is probably the weirdest character if you've ever seen trained. Because when I joined Nullsec, the first thing I did was train towards a capital because I loved capitals, and I miss a lot of the key skills that are combined with subcaps, which you might expect on a subcap or on a main pilot. Uh, but that's just me. Maybe that's just me being weird, but
But
yeah, that's to
it
the thing
shows
I
who
was
you
saying.
are, right? Uh,
Yeah,
all the
uh,
decisions you made.
yeah, and I think I mean, that's why I treat Bobman as well. He's flying my biggest ship in the game. It's just sort of this freaky role play that I do with myself. I don't role play anyways, but I just think Bobman is my main pilot, so he should fly my Titan, etc., etc.
So Bobman is your Titan pilot.
Yeah, everybody knew that already.
Right, and you're part of a crew that actually goes around hunting other Titans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the what was your reaction to the casino thing, and where are you now with that? Like, how do you feel that affected the game, and
Mhm.
where do you sit on that issue now?
So what I think with I think for the game, I mean, I understand the point that people were raising that it wasn't fair in terms of the amount of money you could pump into a war. That was kind of crazy. I I understand why it happened, and I agree with it. Although I think it's sort of a shame that it sort of removed a large part of the community uh, things. Although I was surprised with my Amsterdam this year that we were still able to get a lot of prizes. So I mean,
But
for me
donations
personal,
or
out of personal, I'm sorry, yeah,
what?
we got a lot of donations.
Mhm.
Actually, a lot more than I expected. We from Amsterdam per side of view, just to give you an idea, when the casinos got removed, we lost about 500 billion worth of prizes, I think. But we were able to actually get to that level again, not to the ridiculous amount of prizes, but at least more than the year we gave last year. So that was nice. Uh, so we still got a lot of donations. So that kind of got replaced. I think over time it's just gonna, there's still a lot of wealthy people, I guess, but it's just gonna be different. uh, I mean, I support, I guess, the way that or support the reason, the in-game reason why it got removed. Let's just call it.
You do support it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was a nice thing to have, if you know what I mean. Especially with
Wink, wink.
I wink, wink, nice, nice. But I mean, uh, you know, speaking with a lot of people that ran wars and stuff, it's kind of crazy. Maybe not the best thing you want to do in Eve when people are literally, giving you 4 trillion ISK to do a war, which they made in like 10 days without doing anything. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
pretty unfair advantage.
yeah, it's an unfair thing.
Now, I endorsed you earlier because you were, to me, somebody who's super enthusiastic about Eve Online. You're a big fan of it, right?
Yeah, I think I love Eve a lot. Like it's funny. I don't necessarily play a lot of Eve, like in terms of actually playing the game. I've always been more of the person that does more of the background work. So like Eve news, I was a spy. That's what I did. I never been the guy who joined every fleet, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But I just love the whole idea about Eve, the community around it, the stories, etc., etc., the events.
Yeah. But you're a big fan of Eve. You're a huge fan of CCPs.
Yeah.
And at some point you want to work for them, probably, right? You want to be one of those super players.
Uh, I mean, isn't that everybody's goal? I guess if you can work for a game that you love, no matter what, then that would be amazing in my eyes. But I mean, we
Yeah.
shall see.
I don't know. Not my goal, but I'm already halfway, hopefully only halfway through a career.
I mean, yeah, exactly. For me, I'm a young guy, so if
Yeah.
it's possible, it's possible. I'm not gonna. But I mean, it, as long as I can be an Eve player, I'm fine with being an Eve player.
Cool. How did you make your money in game? Because you made a lot of money.
um, it's been strange, honestly. Like I've had this question asked a lot in the Eve News channel, and you might remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Eve News was a nice way to make money. I was a banker for a bit, which netted me some ISK as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the main thing that I was lucky to do was be in the right place at the right time. Honestly, like sometimes there, I was just in the right spot to buy something very cheap. For example, with AT ships, that's the main thing I currently collect. It's a couple of AT ships that I own, and I bought them for really cheap, and I usually sold them for a lot more. So, I mean,
So you were trading exotic cars, basically.
it's sort of like that. I mean, that's just luck, basically. Basically, having a ship and somebody offers you a crazy amount of money, and like, yeah, sure, have it. Same thing with characters. I think that's the first thing I did was, uh, and this is like 6 years ago, is to buy a character like a Sino pilot, train it up to be a covert Sino pilot, use it in the meantime, and then sell it again. That's what I did at the beginning, and
Yeah.
then back in the days, I also did some more of the naughty stuff in Eve, to call it like that.
The naughty stuff is what I was thinking about. You used to infiltrate corporations and rob them blind, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things my alts may have done. And yeah, I was part of being a spy. Was I found ways, crazy ways actually, to get into corporations very easily. And if you get the opportunity and you are a Eve player who likes that kind of gameplay at the time, well then you take those opportunities, I guess.
Sure. Why wouldn't
Although
you?
to this day on Bobmon, I've never scammed, and if you talk with me on Bobmon or any of my Pandemic Legion alts, you are safe.
Okay, so in other words, you're trustworthy as Bobmon, but not necessarily as alts that people would never know were you anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would never go after blues that are blue with Bobman. Right? Like when I know you as Bobman, I trust you can trust me 100%. That's not a thing. It's just like I don't know. It's kind of saying you can trust me. Totally believe me, but if you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
it's just I play as a totally different person on certain alts, and
Right.
that's also part what you have to do as a spy.
Right. Okay. The other thing is there was some controversy that I wanted to have you talk about, and that was how you got elected last time. I think it was. And there's a rumor that I don't know how substantiated it is, but I'll put it out there, and you can either tell your version of it or you can bat it down. That Iron Bank, who's a friend of yours, who is also a sponsor of
Mm-hmm.
Eve News 24, put out a lot of money for plexes to buy accounts for 1 month in order to
Mm-hmm.
make them voting accounts, and that was a huge. All those accounts voted for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about
So
that?
what, like I was told about this at the last summit, actually, funny enough, because like, the only thing I ever talked with Iron Bank about is like, hey, dude, I'm running for CSM. Will you support me for, will you make a forum post in my thread, basically? And if he decided to pay a enormous amount of plex for accounts to get me in, that's crazy. And if he did that, then I mean, thanks, but
He's a great friend.
it's yeah, it's not something I stimulated it, or I would have told him that he's stupid if he did it. I would have found it pretty funny. I mean, but that I am not aware that he did that. Actually, did that. I asked him the question, and he said yes, over 9,000 XD. So I mean, as, he would have confirmed it by now if he would have actually done it, I guess.
Oh, so he did not confirm it.
I don't know, honestly. He never gave me a serious answer. It's something like, uh, if he did, he did. There's nothing you know.
So he would
I
want you
mean,
to
that's a
believe it
way to
anyway.
support somebody.
Even if he didn't
Yeah,
do it, he would want you to believe he did.
yeah, probably. I mean, I got a surprising amount. Like, I got a lot more votes than I initially thought I would get. I mean, I thought I had a good shot of getting in the second time, because Elise Randolph made that prophecy. But I mean, it happened, I guess. The same rumor went about with Lenny, and I honestly don't know. Like, those guys had an insane amount of money, so they could have. I don't know.
So, okay, so you're saying that it's very possible and even likely that they did open up a bunch of Plex to open up all these accounts to vote for you.
I,
But if
I've
they
seen
did,
them. I've seen them give 1,000 of, like, hundreds and hundreds of billion ISK to events. I've seen them, literally buy a Titan within 5 seconds without even thinking about it. So when you get to that point of having ISK, I would not be surprised. Again, I don't know if it happened. I don't know if it did happen.
okay, either way, if it did or didn't happen, you didn't ask for it.
No, no, I would never ask for that.
And to this day, you're not aware if it actually did or didn't
Yeah,
happen. Okay. That's interesting. Those are good friends. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
if they did that. So, being on the CSM, how have you liked it, like as a person?
I really liked it. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from my fellow CSM members, from the CSP people. Um, I was able to build on the things I learned at Eve News 24. Like, for example, I already knew that players in different areas of the game, uh, all played a very different way of Eve. But I was able to build on that, which is something I've personally found very interesting. Um, I found it very interesting to actually see the process behind the scenes at CCP, and sort of learn what they look at, what they're working on, etc., etc. There's so much stuff that I really enjoyed. Like, it's been incredible.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's been incredible for you from your point of view. How has it
Hmm.
been for your constituency, or how do you think you've added to the CSM? Like, why should you be sent back?
Hmm. One of the things that I think I really sort of stimulated from the beginning was get more support in terms of media
Yeah.
support on the
So
CSM.
you probably
For
mean
example,
you
the live
probably mean
streams.
sorry, you probably mean stipulated, not stimulated.
That probably, I
but
don't know.
but it's okay. Uh,
Yeah,
I didn't want to get cross wires there
he,
because probably I should have
he's
stimulated this thing. Is
he's Metro's back being my editor, boys. It's all fine.
right? Uh,
So, what, like, the thing with the media, like, we did more live streams. We did videos. You've seen more about the CSM than any year before, and that's something I said the day one I spoke with CSP Guard at FanFest, when I heard I got in. He's like, "Hey, dude, you love EFTV. I love EFTV. Let's make this great again." Joke. Um, and that's one of the things I'm most proud of. And also, one of the thing that I really liked that I was able to do this year was, because there were, like, we had Aerith and such that are and then Nominate, who were really big on like the alliance structures, big alliance dudes,
Hmm.
and they might like yes, you can. And personally, I'm more of a what does the individual player do in this sort of area of the game. So I was able to defend that sort of you know like in terms of from an alliance down point of view on certain development things. I was able to sort of say yeah, but the player maybe wants to have this information, or the player maybe wants to do this, or it may be better for the player, individual player like this.
So you were
And
able to
it's
kind of represent the little guy as opposed to the big.
yeah, and also like more gameplay aspects that are maybe forgotten. Like I said, I've got a history in terms of scamming, doing more of the naughty things in Eve, and that's actually I think a core strength of Eve is that you're able to do whatever you want. You can even be the biggest douchebag that you want to be, and that's sort of a key thing within Eve. And I always make sure that that is also a key thing in discussions because it is very important to me and what I like about Eve and what I know a lot of people that supported me like in Eve.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that role playing though? Is role playing? Does the game allow you to be someone you're not, or does it allow you to reveal yourself that you can't reveal in real life?
I think I've met a lot of players in real life that are maybe a bit different in game. I think everybody automatically goes to the person he is in real life, maybe with a little bit less boundaries to certain in a certain degree. Like nice people that are really, really, really nice in Eve or in real life can be like will likely be very, very nice. But you have this opportunity to be the biggest douchebag, and like like for example, you can when somebody comforts you and you're tackling him and you have him in low structure, you know, and he says, "Hey, I will pay you 100 million if you don't kill me." Like you can be the very nice guy and accept it, but you can also just kill him anyway. And that's sort of the thing I love about Eve, and I think that's the possibility everybody has in Eve to decide that for their.
What would you do in that situation?
I
you
always kill them.
ransom somebody. What happens after that?
I kill them. I kill them.
You
Like
take
I'm
their
that
money
guy.
and you kill them?
I just pretend to have lag and that the guns fire. Like,
You're
right?
a dishonorable pirate.
I mean that. Come on, like if you have a nice skill, there's no is that can sort of
So
I don't know. I
kill male above all. Yeah.
I mean that's sort of the end of the day, right? Like
Veroni would flail you. He'd
oh yeah,
strip you down and execute you in front of all the other pirates because he
yeah.
believes strongly in honorable pirates.
I mean I respect that kind of
Veroni, by the
view
way,
and
is CCP
yeah,
Falcon. No.
it's CSP Falcon, yeah. And I'm like I've been in that situation where somebody offered me 10 million and I was like sure 10 million is great, here have it, and I could go, and they actually did it. And I don't know, actually one of the things that work also is when they have you tackled, just comfort them and tell them that you are a blue Sino alt, or like traveling for a big fleet, and if they kill you then your fleet commander will yell at their CEO and probably kick them. That works great.
Well, I totally missed that one, but I'll review it on the recording. And
No
sorry,
worries, no worries.
I didn't. The other thing is, there's so many things I want to ask you actually because we're
Yeah,
actually known to each other. One of the things that impressed me early on is like how you are somebody who's hopeful for the game. Like
yeah,
you're constantly working towards the betterment of Eve. At least for Eve News 24, your whole thing was, man, we just want to give a space for people to write about Eve because they like it, we like it too. Let's make this space for them.
yeah. And that's still something I find very important, even with the CSM. When I ran for CSM, the amount of people that said to me that the CSM is shit, that's not worth it, that CSP doesn't listen anyway, they don't care, etc., etc. I find that so annoying. Like, uh, at least, like, if I get in, like, at least let me do my best and make it as good as possible. And that's what I did this year. And that's what I always do. Is like you can be very negative, but there's no point of being negative because then your personal experience will be bad. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If I don't like Eve anymore, then I will likely quit. Like, but to this day, I always am optimistic.
You're not going to just stay and crap on it over and over again.
No, I think there's literally no point in saying like this is shit. At least give some good feedback on why you think it's shit. It's actually one of like one of the things you always run into being a CSM member when talking about like current things in the game. You're like, so what do you think about it? And people respond to you, it's shit. And it's like, well, I figured that much out. Please tell me why you think it's shit.
Yeah. Um, Sorry. So the last thing I want to ask you about is
Hmm.
Amsterdam. You're a big proponent of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, Valentine organizes it. He does sort of all the the venue stuff, the getting shirts, everything like that. And my main thing has been, being the CCP contact on certain aspects, making sure that the presentations go smooth at the event and that there are prizes to hand out. I always say that I'm kind of the guy that got lucky and can do all the fun stuff, and Valentine has to do like sit behind his PC, do the administration.
Yeah, the work. No, but it's nice because it gives you a chance to really kind of help build the community, at least in that area.
Amsterdam is amazing. Like the first time Valentine organized it was just in a pub, and we instantly had 100 people and one CCP dude. And that's now 4 years ago, I think, 4
That's
years
when it
ago,
started.
and that's when it started. And like we just grew and grew afterwards. Like this year, we got a lot of dudes again, and it's so much fun. It's so fun to take people, through Amsterdam, show them nice things in Amsterdam, party with them in Amsterdam, and you show the people that play Eve, talk with each other or meet let them meet each other. It's so much fun. I run around like a kid in a candy store. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I'm thinking of the picture of one CSM guy surrounded by a bunch of players, and it brings me back to a couple of years ago where uh, one CCPer got super drunk and leaked a bunch of stuff about
Oh yeah,
capital changes that were coming out.
yeah. Please don't remind me.
Nightmare for you?
Uh, that was terrible. Like, um, because a few of the CCP dudes I considered like, I talk with them regularly. There was one dude, I don't think it's necessary to name his name again because he also left CCP right now.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, I considered him as a buddy, and he got very drunk, and in probably like surrounded by PL people, the worst of all people to talk about politics with. He just starts bursting out these new things, um, and like I let's just say I was not surprised to hear some of the things because I heard it maybe like he was just standing there and I was like pulling him on his shoulder and I was like, mate, you know what you said right now, right? Like, please remember your job, like And he was like, oh fuck, and he, like that was the end of that day. And then the next morning, I got to the event, and everybody was already poking me on Twitter and everywhere, like, hey Bob, what was said? What was said? And I was like, screw you people, I'm not telling anybody what was said because it's not something that should have been said, uh, and like I I think it's just the thing that happened. No, nothing more, nothing less. And that got spun into me, leaking stuff, whatever that got spun way out of control.
So the rumors got built up that you were leaking what was leaked to you,
Yeah,
but you
exactly.
weren't
And
under NDA at the time.
no,
So
but I mean, let's just say,
you had every
here.
right to say it again and again.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's a buddy of mine, and I don't want to be a douchebag to my friends, if you know what I mean. Like I was just saying, I was not surprised to hear the changes. Was just something I thought I heard that it made sense, if you know what I mean. The changes made sense that he was saying. So, and the way he was talking, I instantly knew that he was, talking about those things that he should not have said. Uh, and especially because it were the capital changes, which is very big in Eve. It's not some small changes. It's not like it's key. How a doomsday worked, etc., etc. And so that's why I was just like, no, it's just a buddy screwing up, and I'm not gonna, just gonna stay at the event. What happened in Amsterdam stays in Amsterdam.
But you weren't the only one that heard it.
Oh no, 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 definitely not. I mean, that was said to a whole bunch of people before I pulled them out. I mean, it's just a thing that happened.
Oh, and you actually pulled him out.
Oh yeah,
Oh, interesting. So what ended up happening with that? Because there was, capital changes were leaked there by
Mhm.
him. He's no longer with the company. I don't know if they're related or not, but
No, no.
then later, Manfred Sidious is on CSM from
Yeah.
PL, your alliance, and he gets booted for what is not necessarily technically CSM leaks, but basically
hmm
everybody knows he got booted because of breaking the privilege.
hmm
What's the difference? What happened there? What happened there, and
I
why is
don't
that
know
different?
what happened with. Honestly, to this day, that's I don't know.
So you have no idea what you never heard what Manny was saying to other
No,
PL people. Okay.
I mean the only thing that with the whole Manny situation that I uh, did is like I knew that when Manny got removed, I would have been his replacement, and so
You
honestly,
you
I was
did know
so
that?
like, oh yeah, I did know that because I I saw every option. I was so hyped to be a CSM member. You won't even understand how happy I was to see this year that I made it in. Like I literally walked out. I was at FanFest. I walked out the presentation when my name popped, and I think I ran 1,000 rounds around the building. So in celebration, like that's how happy I was. So the first year when I was running, I didn't get in by like 4 people or something, and I was so sad. Like the day I saw the announcement, and then uh, when I noticed that I would have been his replacement, honestly, that internal feeling of me popped up again. And then when I heard I didn't make it in, I was a bit sad, and that's when maybe that's the only thing I did with the whole money situation.
But you were aware that you were next on the list if he fell out.
Yeah.
Did that influence? Because one of the rumors was that you engineered, and I'm not saying this is true at all, but this is just one of the rumors that was out there. Engineered helping him to be removed
Oh
by,
no.
so you didn't have anything to do with that.
No, I think many would like in some, especially at that time, he was the right candidate from PL in that position, especially seeing like the capital things that he discussed. Like I supported him as well to be on the CSM. So no, 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 I would never be that shady.
Right. And I should, well, maybe, but you would do it in game terms with an alt. You might be that shady. But
No, I no, no, no. That's crazy. Like I would not go that far to get on the CSM. Like
right.
uh, you know,
Because I should say that was written about on TMC at the time, which is now Imperium News, a place that I work for. And Scion had written in an article that that's something that had happened.
yeah.
And I said, I'm not sure about that. And I can arrange a talk with Bobmon to clear that up. And he did talk to you, and you did clear it up. And he
Yeah,
actually
he
took it out
spoke
of the article.
with Rocket X, who actually helped me out a lot in that situation. Uh, we spoke with each other, and he apologized. And yeah,
So it was retracted. And so it was a
yeah,
rumor. And if it's still out there, it should be put to rest that you did not do anything like that.
yep. There's also one other rumor that's pretty funny to me always is the I don't know if you remember, but 2 years ago, basically when you created a trial, I think no, you had a old account, right, that you had sub before. When that ran out of sub, you were able to do the hours for Plex thing. You
Mm-hmm.
remember that, right?
Yeah, I
Like
do.
24 hours for Plex.
And that means
Yeah,
that
so
you
if
could
you
go ahead.
yeah, that meant that you could vote. And I noticed that by a friend saying to me, "Hey, I just voted with 30 accounts." And I was like, "Wait, you don't have 30 accounts." And he told me what he did, and he did it in that way. And so I reported that to CCP, uh, kept it quiet. Somehow that got out and turned into Bobman was using this to get votes. And then last year, I found out that it was possible again. So I sort of said, "Hey, dudes, I thought this was fixed and it was still possible." So I mean, that's another rumor that always goes about me. But I was actually the guy who was like, "Hey, dude, this should probably not be allowed."
So you were the guy trying to fix the situation, but you
Yeah,
got roped into it.
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So there it is. We're pretty much out of time, but that was a lot of different rumors that had come out about you that needed to be knocked down because last year you got kind of crucified by
Ooh,
CSM Watch, who did interviews, and then they had a roundtable to discuss
yeah.
your performance, and you pretty much got beat down by all this stuff.
hmm I think like one thing that you could say in without sounding too cocky. I mean it in a proper way. And in Holland, we would say big trees catch a lot of wind. I guess that was the thing, you know, at the time. And not to be cocky or think that I'm a big guy with an E, but I think honestly, like I in that time I was never, other than my interview, I was never poked to talk about it on air, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Well, that's why I said I would give you as much space as we could. The only thing I regret is that this discussion was mostly about all the rumors that you had to kind of bat down, not so much about like how your year went. But I think people can read the minutes, make an adjustment, make their assessment that way.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think if they want to, like, if they want, they can always contact me. Like, I will respond to every email that I can. Um, they have my Twitter. Feel free to ask me questions. It's very hard to talk about my entire year without everything maybe being out yet. There's still stuff under NDA, I guess. So I can't wait when all that stuff is up in the air to see to talk about everything. That's possible.
yeah. Well, 5 years, right? It'll be a while.
Well, I mean, yeah, never mind.
Well, anyway, Bobman, thanks for showing up. Appreciate it, and good luck with your re-election bid.
Yeah, thanks for having me.